Hello and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Capril. Well, by the time you watch this, you're already going to know if I'm happy or super happy. But for the second year in a row, the sporting gods have blessed yours truly. You got to understand, growing up where I've lived, those teams that I pull for, they've had brief moments of success, but it's been mostly heartbreak. Grew up in New York as a Mets fan. Jets and the Giants. Giants did have a nice little run there. Jets, nothing. The year they won the Super Bowl, I was 5 or 6. Nothing even close. Then we moved out to Cleveland and became a Browns fan because I like to adopt the local team. And Heartbreak City. Oh, Heartbreak City. This is before they got relocated. Then after college, I started in Chicago, and the gods blessed me very briefly with one Bears Super Bowl. Then to Cincinnati and Kansas City. Tough places, boy, I tell you. For years, even when you had a good team, couldn't win a playoff game. Chiefs had home field advantage. I don't know how many times. Couldn't win one game. Bengals were the same way. So when I moved down to Tennessee, I said, okay, I'm not going to adopt the local team anymore. Sorry, I'm not going to be a Titans fan. I'm going to go back to the Chiefs. I'm going to be a Chiefs fan. That's my team. The Bengals keep breaking my heart. I don't, I try to be committed, and I'm not a front runner, but I'm like, I'm just going to stick with my team. I'm going to use this opportunity, moved away, and not to adopt the local team. Well, the Chiefs did great for me. And then suddenly, the Bengals did good. St. Joe Burrow returned to Ohio. So I'll be honest with you, back on the Bengals bandwagon, but I love the Chiefs. So here I am now, 2 years in a row, and I've got my two favorite teams playing each other to go to the Super Bowl, which means I'm guaranteed a team in the Super Bowl. Now, I am pulling for the Bengals. Chiefs won it a few years ago. Bengals really could use it more. But in any event, the only reason I'm bringing this up is, number one, because it's been on my mind lately. And number two, I want to talk a little bit about entertainment. So forget sports for a second. If you're not into sports, don't worry. I got a better idea for you. I hope you're into this one. I don't usually go on these broadcasts and tell you like things like TV shows, but I really do want to encourage those of you who enjoyed the movie The Godfather. I strongly recommend you go on. I believe it's on Netflix. It's either Netflix or Amazon Prime. If you Google it, you'll find it. And watch a 10-part series. It's a drama, and it's about the making of The Godfather. Fascinating show, fascinating. Assuming most of it is true, and I knew some of the story, but not all of it. So first of all, at the time that Mario Puzo writes a book, he's a struggling author. He's a gifted author, but he's writing literary books, and they're not selling. So either his agent or his wife recommends that he write a book about the mob. Now, Puzo, being Italian, really doesn't want to go there. If you've known Italians, and I grew up in New York, and I gotta tell you, I mean, there are Italians families that I grew up with, and I'm not slighting them. This is just a fact of my life, where I was told as a very young child, don't ever ask them what they do for a living. And then there were those that were very outspoken about what they felt the mob had done to Italian people, their heritage, etc. So Puzo was like that. Puzo had nothing to do with it. He's like, no, isn't that typical? Here I am, Italian. I got to write about the mob. He knew all about it because growing up in New York, he had friends, family, or friends that were connected to it. But he owed money to loan sharks, and his wife convinces him, no, dude, come up with something that's different. It doesn't have to be a shoot 'em up, bang bang movie. So he decides he's going to write a book, which is really going to be about a family, the Corleone family. And so he writes a book. And if you can recall, in the early 70s, that book went to number one right away. There were lines around the block for him to sign the book. He was experiencing success like he never had. And then Paramount decides to buy the rights to the book. Don't really do much with it for a while. They get a first-time producer to actually produce it, give him a very limited budget where he can really only pay actors at scale. And of course, they want Marlon Brando to play the role of Don Corleone. He's able to get Francis Ford Coppola to write the script. Coppola insisted that he direct the movie. He was new to that, but they were fine with that. They're like, fine, you work with Puzo. Puzo did not know anything about writing movie scripts, but they wanted to have the two of them together, and they did. They basically sent him out to a house in California, and those two guys worked around the clock, cranking this out. The mob did not initially want the movie made. Frank Sinatra, who had connections to the mob, really did not want it made because he felt that one of the characters in the book was patterned after him, Johnny Fontane. Puzo insisted that was not the case. In fact, Puzo said, "I'm a huge Frank Sinatra fan," but Sinatra wanted nothing to do with that. Eventually, the producer cuts a deal with the mob. And one of the things that he does is he agrees to take that Johnny Fontane character pretty much out of the movie. If you've read the book, and I really do recommend you do read the book because it reads very easy. Johnny Fontane appears in the book quite a bit, but he has kind of like his own story. So it was very easy to remove him, other than the opening, part where I hope I'm not giving it away, but when he goes to see Don Corleone and says he wants to be in a movie and the director won't let him be in the movie. And see, Frank Sinatra thought that had to do with the movie From Here to Eternity. Because when he got that part, it resurrected his career. But in any event, Johnny Fontane is removed from the movie, just has a small piece. And that was enough to satisfy both the mob and Frank Sinatra. But along the way, the studio head he was against Al Pacino getting the role. He wanted James Caan to play the role of Michael. They finally had a compromise. And James Caan's not even Italian, but he got the role of Sonny, which actually was a pretty good one. So I highly recommend it. It's a great miniseries. Again, it's 10 episodes. So if you're not going to watch football, or even if you are going to watch football, take some time, find it. It's called The Offer, which kind of makes sense because if you know anything about the Godfather, there's a famous line in there. It says, "My father made him an offer he couldn't refuse." And so that's essentially what this was about. All right. So I'll get back to more boring personal finance, but I thought here we are in the dead of winter. It's kind of nice to talk about something else. All right. Take care. If you need me for any reason, feel free to reach out. Just so you know, you can always schedule an appointment with me by going to bookachatwithdan.com. Take care.